Meiotic Capitia's behavior, or what Meiotic Capitia is doing as a woman or otherwise, as a racial entity, or what about her identity? It sounds very complex, um, because he's talking about racially marginalized groups, uh, you know, uh, that assume the mask of the black, not to deny their diversity, but to uh, audaciously announce the important artifice of cultural identity and difference. So, whatever she is doing towards the end, do you feel that she is emphasizing cultural identity or difference in any manner? Is she emphasizing her cultural identity by becoming a laundress, or by gaining whiteness, or by masking herself this way? No comments? Uh, Ji, uh, it says the, about the colonized. Uh, it mentions, the language of the civilizing nation, right? So if you talk about white man would normally say that people in the Orient, that is us, we live in the Orient, and black people. So white man actually thinks that he brought civilization to all these nations, right? So Mayoti Capitia mentions marooning of her husband Andre, because he had married a black woman. So he himself did not remain very white. So, do you have any comments on marooning of Andre? Because Mayoti Capitia is talking about marooning of her husband, right? I think it's a slightly unnoticed terminology, because Fanan mentions marooning, while we know more about, uh, whiteness or blackness, or through this book about this desire to become white. But he does mention marooning of Andre, who is Mayoti Capitia's husband, and he's not as white as he originally is, because he's living in Antilles and he has married a black woman, so he himself has also marooned because of this relationship. Any comments on husband's desire for privacy in terms of social life? Because when he speaks to her husband, he says he needs privacy and she cannot be part of his social life. Any comments on privacy? See, here it says the black man who has lived in France for a length of time returns radically changed. So, has Mayoti Capitia changed? Do you agree with Fanan that the people living in white societies, or black men or women living in white societies, go through absolute mutation, right? Because he's specifically saying that those who live in France for a length of time return radically changed. So, do you feel Mayoti Capitia has changed, or she has adjusted in terms of social formations? Uh, you know, any comments? No comments? It's a wife. talking about her relationship with a white man and with white society, and then she's talking about her uh, events from her childhood, right? And she's talking about her ultimate career that she feels brought her whiteness. So, any comments on any part of it? What about, like when she says that she's bleaching her whiteness, her blackness by doing laundry? Does it, like people believe that if you are rich, nobody talks about your weaknesses or your bad qualities. Many a times people think that you are still superior because you are rich. So she does keep on saying that uh, you are white about a certain financial level. So she is actually talking about whiteness of certain type. No comments?
Yes, I think even if they do have weaknesses, and even if people are aware of them, it doesn't affect their status in a society. Like people would still follow them and just praise them, and it wouldn't affect their position in the society because of the privilege they hold, despite all the weaknesses they have.
But do you think that she thinks that whiteness is a privilege? So wealth is whiteness or wealth is privilege? So, because whiteness is a privilege, wealth is a privilege, so wealth is whiteness. That's how she's going about. Um, that's how she's
But
discussing all these things.
I think that's a metaphor कि जिस तरह जो wealth होती है, it does put you higher in the hierarchy in society, and it does give you privilege. It separates you from other classes, and in the same way, white people are they're also distinguished, and the power they hold in society is it can be um, compared with the power rich people have. It's just a matter of power, I think. The both a group of people have, rich people and white people.
Okay. Uh, do you think that this kind of resistance actually creates a rupture in the silence? Because he says the silence of a sudden rupture right here. So if finance texts are considered, like some sort of resistance to the white superiority, expression of resistance to white superiority, do you feel that like because he's talking about black, white, self, and other, and these are like self and other is again something that also uh, points to gender relations, while he's focusing more on black white relations. In meiotic capacious case, both of these apply, black white and self other relations, gender relations, because she's talking about both racial and gender relations, right? And he does feel that this is quite narcissistic, and he's talking about myths. He thinks that supremacy is a myth, cultural myth, myths of negritude and myths of white cultural supremacy,
मैम
because these G,
सॉरी आई वाज ट्राइंग टू स्पीक लेकिन मेरा माइक काम नहीं कर रहा था कब से आपने एक पॉइंट बोला था बीच में एब्सोल्यूट म्यूटेशन
I did mention, Fanan mentioned that when white man lives in France for a long time, he is
yeah
mutated. G.
yeah I recently watched a show which had exactly this point. It was Anne with an E. It's a show about like all these different times back in the 90s, and usme they show a family, a black family, and black people have recently won freedom. So now they're not slaves anymore, and they have their own rights and stuff. So the kids have internalized that, and they've grown out of the whole thing, and they're trying to work, and they don't want to be slaves. But their mother is so focused on the fact that she was a slave her entire life, so she treats white men the same exact way. And her kids have white friends, and she tells them to not yell at them and not fight them, and speak to them with respect because they're superior. And they keep telling her, okay, we're not their slaves anymore, and they're normal people. But she's become that person. Even though she has all the freedom, she's already become that person. She can't
Oh,
get out of that.
all right. So you mean that she has internalized the thing so strongly that
Yeah,
she cannot grow out of the myths of negritude or white cultural supremacy.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
saying the kids do not believe it.
yeah.
So does anything in that particular show, any scene from that particular show, express what kids think of themselves, like they think they are equal? Any incident or event from the show that you can recall?
But,
Uh,
ma'am, because they are working, they work, and they've seen the youth fight for the rights of the black people, so they know how hard it was to get out of that. Whereas the mother was inside a house the entire time, being a slave to a white family, so she didn't see any of it happen. She just wanted to be that person, where regardless of the fact that her kids, including all the other youth, fought so hard for their rights.
okay, all right. Um, because I would have thought that certain dialogue, you are talking about body language of the mother, right? So mother has that kind of body language or behavior,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I'm particularly asking if you can
And
recall any dialogue, like mother would have said something that shows her respect, or you know
yeah, there was this scene in the kitchen where her son is fighting with his friend, his business partner, and his friend, and he's white. And she takes him to the room, and she says, "Why are you speaking to him like that? It's because of him we live in this house." And he says that, "I own half of this house. He's my business partner. He's an equal. He's not someone that I work under." But the mother can't comprehend that. Like she doesn't get that. वो बार बार यही बोलती है कि that's not possible. Like, no, it doesn't matter. They can trick us. They have more power. He can somehow take all the land on his name, and you won't get any of it. You don't get it. They're smarter and they have more power. You won't be able to do anything. So she doesn't understand the whole concept of friendship between a white man and a black man.
Okay. All right. That perfectly explains mother's behavior, and through mother's dialogue, I think you have very well connected that in terms of her the language she speaks.
Mm,
Uh, the mother is still speaking the language of the master,
yeah,
while the son does not believe in language of the master. He believes in language of an equal counterpart. He thinks that, you mentioned that he says that I own half of it and he owns half of it. We are partners,
yeah,
right? So he is talking about equal relationship, and probably he is talking about what Fanan was trying to attain. He was constantly talking about humanism that he believed could be attained through such discussions, because the book does say that it's not an expression of Fanon's anger towards race relations, but it is actually an expression of his great desire for humanism that he desired, you know,
yeah,
humanism that he desired all his life, that should be between black people and white people, and black woman and white woman, right?
yeah.
So Here it says that, like just the Antillean evoluca to the quick by the glancing look of a frightened, confused white child. I think we had read this before because it was saying, and by Antillean he means that parts of France and Belgium, I think, where the war was going on before this time or around this time, and Evolu is that particular black man or African, you know, and so you think that uh, any scene from any of the productions that reflects this fear of white man, that our women are at the mercy of Negroes? We read it before. Uh, it's it's uh, it's written right here, you know. So white fear of I think in Birth of a Nation, there is this scene in which a white girl wants to marry a black man. And because Birth of a Nation is about a time, it was produced in 1914-15, and it does focus on a situation between Boston and New York in uh, at the end of 19th century, and Birth of a Nation is actually showing this uh, great struggle between white people and white people about equal relations, because people in Boston didn't like it, and the white girl wanted to marry black man. So this actually, Fanan is actually talking about this fear right here. God knows how they make love, how the deep cultural fear of the black figured in the psychic trembling of Western sexuality. Because in Mayoti Capicia's story, we do see this same thing, Western sexuality issues. And in Birth of a Nation also we see this again, fear of white society, because it says trembling Western sexuality. It is the sign and symptoms of colonial condition, because uh, colonial condition is that people, if you keep thinking that white man is superior, then you try having whiteness of the white man. Uh, that's how he's explaining it. All right. So, any other comment on any other part of of this story of Mayoti Capicia? Um, any other comment? About, about a woman's goals. uh, right now here it is saying that all movements or contexts were bringing Mayoti Capicia closer to her goals, and or they have a direct connection to her goals, and her goal was whiteness. While this perpetual conflict between the binary never leaves people, so Mayoti Capicia actually married white man. She married Andre, but this conflict remained between the husband and wife after, even after their marriage, right? The white man kept telling her that he loves her, but she kept feeling, she had this feeling of conflict in her. So I would like to tell you that we have completed 5 topics here, and sometime during this week I will be posting the midterm exam. Okay. I haven't posted any assignment so far, so I will post something. I suggest you try doing it, and just as I think um, who mentioned the show just now? Was it Ikra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I think the way you connected that scene with the finance reading just now, you
जी,
mentioned a scene, and you
जी,
mentioned what mother said to her son about racial relations or about his aggression with the white guy. She questioned her son and she had internalized everything. I would suggest that think about your exam and assignments in a similar way. Think about scenes and think about things that people say. Think about the dialogues and make
Yeah.
notes of scenes and dialogues while attempting your midterm exam or the assignment. Okay. So I
Sure.
would definitely post the exam because I think we have to do something. It would help in developing a paper for the final eventually. So please do this and keep looking for it. So we I have cancelled only one class, which is Friday's session because university announced uh, holiday. Okay.
Ma'am, will there be a class on Monday?
Yes, definitely, because university announced off days on Friday, Saturday, Sunday only, which means we have Friday and Saturday off. We don't have Monday off. We would have a class on Monday.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. On Monday we will be reading this article, Orientalism, and you can see this link here. This will take you to a specific reading. It's not a very long reading, it's a short reading. So I would suggest try reading it because the exotic, erotic, and dangerous South Asian woman in popular film. So this woman is actually in the Hollywood film. Uh, this article actually uh, says the type of things that we normally perceive about white women because in our culture, in our society, we have specific opinions about women, white women's sexuality, white women's independence, white women's behavior. We think that white women are free women, right? Our society has a tendency of thinking that. But this article actually talks about perceptions of white society about women of this part of the world because this is particularly focusing on the image of South Asian women in Hollywood films, right? So it would be quite interesting to see that what we say about white women, white societies exactly say the similar things about women of brown cultures or black cultures. Okay, because white man particularly thinks that um, his sexuality and behavior is balanced, and here I have posted a few different clips. We'll be watching it while we go through it. At the end of these clips, there would be, in the middle, in fact, there is one video about Edward Said on Orientalism. I would suggest that try watching this video on YouTube. If you click here, it will take you straight to YouTube. Because if you watch this video, you would understand what Said means by Orientalism. I think it would be perhaps very difficult for us to watch the whole film, the whole video during the class. It's not very long, it's about 40 minutes long. It says 40 minutes and 31 seconds. So I suggest if you get time, try reading it and try watching it. So when we read the article by Yasmin Jivani, we actually know what lies behind because Edward Said created this theory of Orientalism a few decades back, and just like Laura Mulvey's theory of visual pleasure has become extremely important, and it is one of the most discussed theories. Similarly, uh, Edward Said's Orientalism is also one of the most discussed theories of the past century, which means you can say that after the advent of feminism, this theory did make a lot of difference, right? So these two are most important theories of the past century. And as I said, that it would be difficult for us to watch the film during the class. So I suggest you, if you get time between now and Monday, try watching Edward Said's video, because it will help in discussion of Yasmin Jibani's article on dangerous South Asian woman in Hollywood film, because she thinks that Hollywood films uh, present South Asian women as exotic, erotic, and dangerous South Asian women. Okay, and keep an eye that, because I'll be posting the midterm exam or assignment or something, it will help eventually. All right. So basically, our focus was on Mayoti Kapicia's story today, against the backdrop of finance theory. So I would just say that if you want to discuss anything from here, from what Fanan is saying here, please feel free to discuss. Otherwise, I think we are done for today, because Fanan is actually, when he mentions memories, he's talking about a long history of black, long history of the slave, and long history that actually keeps haunting the slave even today.
Miss, are we studying Orientalism and gender in the next class on Monday?
Yes, we are studying Orientalism in the next class on gender. That's why I mentioned it. That's why I said try going through it. Try watching at least Said's interview, because we will be reading an article on Orientalism and gender. We will not be exactly reading. I have posted one of. I think I have posted something by Edward Said there as well, but our focus would be on Yasmin Jabani's article.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Then I think if there's nothing that you want to say, I would actually close today's session. Okay.
Yes, Miss.
Thank you, Miss.
All right. Thank you then. Thank you everyone for being here today. Take care.
Thank you, Miss. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.